You mentioned that the founding fathers have said that we all created equal, as men, and you also, you have unquestionable support for Israel, obviously. My question is on foreign policy. You've mentioned during the campaign that the Palestinian people were invented people. What do you suggest should happen to them? Should they become Israeli citizens, or should they what do you suggest should happen to them? The other question is, I know the South Carolina, I am from South Carolina, is 60% evangelical Christians with a strong support for Israel. But also my question is, the governor of the state is, from Indian heritage. Her parents came from India, and we have a Catholic running for president, a Mormon running for president. Would you, as Newt Gingrich, support a Muslim American running for president, or would you endorse at one point in the future in American history that a Muslim American could possibly be running for president, given that we had a woman running for president in Hillary Clinton, and we had a Jewish American in Joe Lieberman running for vice president? Thank you very much.
I think it would depend entirely on whether they would commit in public to give up Sharia. I am totally opposed to Sharia law being accepted by any court in the United States. In fact, I favor a federal law that preempts it and says Sharia law will not be used in any court in the United States. And this is a very fundamental question. I mean, people who are truly modern. We have a friend in Arizona who serves in the U.S. Navy, who's a medical doctor, who's Muslim, but he's a totally modern person trying to find ways to bring Islam into modernity. When you realize, as was said last night, that the rising Islamization of Turkey has been accompanied by a 1,400% increase in women being killed. When you look at the actual application of Sharia in places like Iran, when you look at churches being burned in Nigeria and in Egypt, and the decline of Christians in Iraq from 1,200,000 when the Americans arrived to about 500,000 a day, I think it depends entirely on the person. If they are a modern person integrated into the modern world and they're prepared to recognize all religions, that's one thing. On the other hand, if they're the Saudis who demand that we respect them while they refuse to allow either a Jew or a Christian to worship in Saudi Arabia, that's something different. And I think we need a president who stands up, tells the truth, and rejects any kind of effort to impose on us a sense of guilt because we believe in our religion and we're prepared to tell the truth. And I am totally opposed to the State Department meeting a week ago with the Organization of Islamic Countries, who are seeking to censor any comment about Islam because I think it is a fundamental violation of our right of free speech as Americans. But within that framework, a truly modern person who happened to worship Allah would not be a threat. A person who belonged to any kind of belief in Sharia, any kind of effort to impose that on the rest of us, would be a mortal threat. Now, the Palestinian question is a good one. I think if Hamas and if the PLA would agree to recognize Israel's right to exist, and if they meant it, if they would hunt down and stop the terrorists and the bombings, I would favor peace with the Palestinians. I would favor an independent state. I would favor an ability of them to become prosperous and live in safety and have the right of property rights. But in November, 11 missiles were fired into Israel. That's not a peace process, that's war. And I think this idea, and Hamas's official position is the extinction of Israel. You don't have negotiations with somebody who says, let's sit down and negotiate while I figure out how to wipe you out. And I think that we have tolerated for too long terrorist activities disguised as diplomatic behavior, and I think that the Palestinian people should throw out the folks who want to destroy Israel and should say, okay, we will accept Israel's right to exist if Israel will accept our right to be prosperous, have the rule of own property, and candidly that means giving up the right of return. And the reason I talked about it that way is there is no natural right of return. Greeks have no right to return to Turkey. East Germans have no right to return to Poland. Poles have no right to return to Russia. I mean, we've had all sorts of changes in territorial boundaries in the last 200 years. And the only place where it's propped up is against the state of Israel, and the purpose of propping it up is to destroy Israel. And we ought to say, fine, that's over. There is no right of return. Now let's negotiate the future.